everybody. Thank you for joining us for this edition of WCU Athletics Chalk Talk. I am here today with Westchester University head coach Harry Hammond, coaches both the men's team and the women's team, and Scott Vandegrift, Millersville's golf coach, has joined us. Fellas, how you doing this afternoon?
We're doing just great, Jim, and thanks for having us. I'm especially happy to have Coach Vandegrift here. We've got good friends, and the teams become very competitive against each other. Scotty, welcome.
Thank you, Harry. Thanks, Jim, for having me down here. I always enjoy coming back to Hammond, where I grew up playing.
So it should also be mentioned that Scott Vandegrift is a Westchester University alum. Coach Vandegrift, what year was that?
1974, a few years ago.
All right. WCU Athletics Chalk Talk is brought to you by Citadel. Coach Hammond, we'll start with you. Kind of a little bit of a background since March 13th. What have you been doing, and how have you been keeping up with the team and the golfers on both the men's and women's teams?
Well, Jim, to say that the teams are incoming players, especially the freshmen, we're so excited to come to school this fall. And then knowing that the athletic activities are canceled. We go back to last spring, some of my seniors had exceptionally good spring seasons. We were looking forward to getting to the NCAA tournament. That didn't happen. They graduated, and it's an experience that they're going to miss. I'm going to have upperclassmen now that have missed almost a full season playing from spring last year to fall.
And Coach Vandegrift, how about you? How's Millersville golf handling?
Well, fortunately, both my men's and women's teams are comprised of some really classy young people, and they took the news very, very well. We were actually almost to Pinehurst to play our first invitational in the spring when the phone call came to the bus and we had to turn around and come home. That was a long 8.5-hour drive to end up nowhere. And the same thing is the Westchester players. We had very, very good teams. I think both of our teams were definitely going to go to the NCAA region. And we certainly had aspirations of making it to the national championship last spring. Now, we're going through the same thing right now, preparing for knowing that we're not going to compete in the fall. But the challenge is there again, control what you can, and that'll be the academics this fall, and hope that we compete in the spring.
All right, Coach Hammond, talk a little bit about how has the pro game maybe affected the college game and maybe giving you guys a blueprint to follow if you do and when you do return to golf. Was it uplifting to know that the pro teams, the pro players were back on the tour?
Well, Jim, I think so, but aside from idolizing one of the players or something like that, and possibly watching them on TV, local tournaments for the kids are probably more important. And those local tournaments started up within the last several weeks, and some of them have been able to participate and compete in those events. My senior captain just shot one under par 71 to qualify for the Pennsylvania Open yesterday. So some of them are out there competing, and others encourage them to do so on their own.
Coach Vandegrift, how about your men and women up there at Millersville? Obviously, golf is one of those sports where you really can now get out there, even with the social distancing.
Without a doubt. I mean, golf courses right now, with the delayed opening this spring for all golf courses, are in superb shape and keeping golfers cooped up for all those months. The business is booming right now. It's almost impossible to get a tee time at most golf courses right now. And I know that our athletes, especially fearful that we were not going to compete in the fall, are all trying to play in as many high-level tournaments as they possibly can to compete right up until we go back to school. And hopefully that'll help us carry over into the spring.
And sticking with you, Coach Vandegrift, how did the two teams up there at Millersville take the news about the fall competition being canceled? And was it something you had to kind of lean on your team captains to try to help the other players through that?
They predictably took it hard, and they should. Okay, they're missing out, and they know what they're missing out because most of them were with us last spring. But they took it like adults, and which is very important. And we've been able to stay in contact through team Zoom sessions all the way through the spring, all the way through the summer, and we'll continue to do that. I think that's going to be the key, keeping them together, making them share their thoughts, and we'll get through this.
Coach Hammond, how about you? How did the men and women in Westchester take the news?
Because of the uncertainty of some of the things that were coming out early on, and speculation about going back to school, going back to school. A lot of disappointed for both the men and the women's team. As Scotty said, we encourage them to play on their own topics, and when you're in a sport, you have to play and represent the team of the team. So they can work with their teams, so they can go next week.
All right, we'll take some questions now from some of the people that wrote in. First one is for Coach Vandegrift. Don from Mannheim says, how has the pandemic affected the Millersville golf team? What challenges do you face when you start practicing again?
Well, number one will be to make sure the safety. There are certain protocols that are already in place if we do get a chance to practice in the fall, or even when we go to practice in the spring. And that'll be paramount. They'll have to understand what has to be, and we'll move from there, okay? And there won't be any pushing. There'll be a lot of conversation between the coach and the players, and I'll need that feedback, okay? And I think that all coaches are going to be having to listen to their student athletes. What are they comfortable with? What are they not comfortable with? And so there's going to be a lot of give and take at this point. And I'm just going to listen to my players. My players are my best information source.
Harry, this comes from Dave in Westchester. What have you learned from Coach Vandegrift during your time at Westchester?
I'm not sure I can tell you everything about Millersville. But Scotty and I, because of travel and with our teams, have become very close friends. We share information about the teams. We encourage our team players to get to know each other. They can play in practice routes together, so the teams become more of a family. It's been very rewarding for that to happen. As far as Coach and I, between breakfast and dinner on the road, we play occasionally. He hit me with a golf ball or chip shot not too long ago, and I ended up owning the barn. So we have a good time together, but again, I rely on his past judgments and certain questions that happen.
So now this question is for both of you, and it kind of plays along those lines. With such a good friendship, yet the two of you have to compete for the SEC championship, usually every fall. It's going to be this spring, hopefully, if the fall teams are allowed to play in the spring. But how have you been able to maintain that friendship, even though you're competing against each other for the championship?
So, once we're at the tournament site, it's a whole different ball. The practice round is very important to both our teams. The meetings we have after the practice round prepare the team on the best way to play the golf course. And then when they're on the course, we we're out there with them all day, every day. Out having them help to pick the right club on a certain par 3 or whatever. So we work as a team, and then when we're away from the golf course, it becomes much more social.
Coach Vandegrift, how about you?
Well, I take a little different tack. Our two teams are two top teams in the PSAC. We both want to win, but if Millersville doesn't win, we're rooting for Westchester. We feed off of each other. We're good friends in the bus. We're good friends at the meals. Sometimes the people at the restaurants we go to, they can't quite understand what is going on. We're always having too much fun. But when the ball goes on the tee, it all becomes very serious. Both teams are trying to win. But as soon as the scores go up, no matter who has won, whether it be one of our two teams or California or an IU team, our two teams are very classy in that they go seek out the winning team, shake their hands, and then we argue in the bus all the way home back to campus at that point. But the one thing that I think the two coaches bring to our program best is that we make sure that our players enjoy the game and enjoy the competition. And I think that's one of the reasons why we're playing at such a high level. Some of the other schools at times, I think, are a little bit jealous of how well our two teams function together. It's a huge advantage, and we do it on the women's side, too. And that took a while to teach the women how to do that, too. But I think we're stronger because we're two teams that travel together all the time.
So for Coach Vandegrift, this comes from Chris in Lancaster. You've coached one of the top programs in the region at Millersville. How have you been able to sustain that level of success over such a long period of time?
Well, it starts with the athletes that you're able to bring to school and the character of those young people. And I think that each year I become so enthused about the season that's coming up, the new challenge of this new group that I'm about to try to take to a higher level of golf, okay? And I never get tired of it. If I had, I'd have been long gone at this point. And even though I do not compete anymore, my competition comes out in working with the players. And year after year, watching these young people reach their goals, okay, that's all the inspiration I need. Whether we win tournaments in a year, that's great, that's icing on the cake. But it's more seeing these people reach personal goals, watching them matriculate through school, receive a degree, and then move on. And with being there for 35 years, there's quite an alumni base now. And when they come back and speak to my team, it just reassures me this is what I want to continue to do.
Coach Hammond, how was it that you were able to build such a successful program from where it was when you took over, where there were probably a couple individuals that were good, to where now the team is competing for a regional championship and competition?
I think there's several components to that. Number one, they want to come to school because of the reputation of Westchester and the fine educational opportunities. We have a wonderful relationship with Hammond Golf Club where they can come and practice and use all of our good practice facilities. So that's another bonus to the players. And just recruiting in the area, there's enough good players in Pennsylvania and surrounding areas that we can go out and see them play, and then show our interest to them, and then they in turn have to respond to us.
And then one final question for Coach Vandegrift. I would be remiss if I didn't let you go without asking you about your head coach here when you were a golfer at Westchester University, Dr. Ed Cottrell. What was it like to play for him, and what kind of influence did he have on you in the game of golf?
Well, first of all, besides my own parents and my wife, Dr. Cottrell and his wife are two of the most important people in my entire life, and they still are. She's 99, he's 98. He's still the first person I call when I have a coaching question. He's still telling me what to do. And I met him in 1968, and he has been with me my entire career. He helped me through going through the PGA ranks, helped me with every job that I achieved. He's the one that tricked me into getting into coaching. He just knew that this is what I should be doing. I just wish he would tell me what's coming next all the time. He likes to surprise me with it. But one of the most dynamic people you would ever meet. Unfortunately, he doesn't travel much anymore, but almost all my teams over the first 30 years had a chance to meet this individual, and they were inspired immediately by him.
Coach Vandegrift, I appreciate you making the trip down from Millersville. And Coach Hammond, thanks for hosting us here at Penn Oaks Golf Course.